The Lakers, who haven't made any significant moves this free agency, could be looking towards the trading market into upgrading their roster. And an NBA analysis has a wild trade idea that has the Lakers landing a former All-Star and dunk champion in a 3-team trade proposal. What's good, y'all, and welcome to another Lakers Digest video. I'm your host, Okechi Apakama, and before we get into everything we have for you for today's video, guys, I just want to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already to get those Laker updates. Now, with that out the way, let's hop straight into today's topics, as this is a massive Blockbuster 3-team trade proposal, as it's between the Lakers, Atlanta Hawks, and Chicago Bulls. So, the Lakers, who have seemingly exhausted all options when it comes to adding players via free agency, whether either the players went elsewhere for more money or the Lakers weren't able to be the right situation for that player at all. So, the Lakers could be looking towards the trading market, as they still have those 3 first-round picks that they can trade here, and they still have a lot of mid-sized contracts on their team, which is perfect for trading for bigger name players. So this is what that proposal looked like. So the Atlanta Hawks would get Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt. Then the Lakers would receive Zach LaVine, Torrey Craig, and 2 second-round picks from the Chicago Bulls. And then to go along with what the Bulls would get, they would get D'Angelo Russell, DeAndre Hunter, and Jalen Hood-Schifino. So all those players, this would be a massive deal, obviously, if it were to go down. And then the Lakers would receive 2 second-round picks just because of the reporting what's been going on with Zach LaVine, as the Bulls are having a hard time really trading the guy for some reason. But I think it's mostly just because of his huge contract. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, the Bulls are trying to attach a couple of second-round picks to incentivize some teams to take them. So that's why the Lakers would end up with 2 second-round picks here. And just from, I want to be clear, from a basketball standpoint, this does make sense for the Lakers, as a guy like Zach LaVine is an all-around 3-level scorer. He's a dude that shoots threes at a very high clip, and he can get to the rack at a very high clip. He's a good fast-breaking player, which is very important with a guy like LeBron James on your team. And he's also a guy who's improved from his playmaking situation. He's definitely not the playmaker guy like D'Angelo Russell is, but when you still have LeBron James on your team, and even when you're planning to revolve your offense mostly around Anthony Davis as a hub, this is what JJ Redick said, then having the need for a high-level point guard doesn't make as much sense, especially if you're getting a guy like Zach LaVine in return. Now, obviously, there are some downsides to this, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but just some of the players that we're sending out here, for one, as, yes, sending out a guy like Gabe Vincent, I wouldn't mind, because he didn't really play too much last season, and yes, he is looked at to possibly get a role here this upcoming season, especially as a backup guard. We still don't know what that looks like for the Lakers, as he hasn't really played a healthy run for them. But Jared Vanderbilt, a guy that we would be sending out, I'm a big fan of Jared Vanderbilt. I don't think there's too many guys in the league that can do what he does. Yes, I know he doesn't shoot at a very high volume or clip, but he does everything else on the basketball court extremely well. And he's an intangible guy, a dude that's just, you can't teach the hustle that he plays with. So losing him would definitely hurt the Los Angeles Lakers. I'd be more open to trading a guy like Rui Hachimura, even though he's a better offensive player. And then obviously sending out guys like D'Angelo Russell, where you kind of have to make that trade for him because he is the biggest contract they have to trade, and he's also on an expiring deal, so that incentivizes some teams to take him. And then along with Jalen Hood-Schifino, the one young piece the Lakers still had. He didn't really play too much last season, and he didn't really showcase too much because he had back surgery late in the year. So he's another guy that you can definitely throw in there, and maybe another team picks him up, and say it would be the Bulls in this situation, and then they'll have him possibly backing up a guy like Giddey. They still have other guards like Dosunmu and Kobe White, so he'll still have to fight his way for playing time there. But like I said, as far as Zach LaVine, he makes total sense basketball-wise. I mean, just take a look at these stats that he has here, as he averaged just under 20 points per game. He had about 5.2 rebounds per game, which is very important, especially for the Lakers team that doesn't rebound well. 3.9 assists, and then he was shooting about 45% from the field and 34% from 3. He is just about 29 years old, so he's right in the middle of his prime, which is the right time if you want to trade for a guy like him. Yes, he is a little bit injury prone, and you do worry about that on a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but he definitely is a guy basketball wise that makes sense for you to trade for. And then the article went in a little bit deeper about why the Lakers should trade for a guy him. So like why you do this for the Lakers, it's the best move left to add a talented player. While I hate the LaVine contract and the injury history, I do think people are forgetting how good he can be when healthy. He would be a good third piece around James and Davis. He can be a dynamic scorer when healthy. Craig is a solid defender and three-point shooter who can come off the bench for the Lakers, and he's on a cheap contract. So he does make a good point there about Torrey Craig, as he was another guy that would be in that proposed deal, and he would be a solid guy that the Lakers can use. So it will help a little bit if you do lose a guy like Jared Vanderbilt. You can kind of throw him into that situation. Craig is not as good as a defender as Vanderbilt, but he can hit some outside shots. He doesn't shoot them at a high volume, but he is pretty solid from there. And then LaVine, like I said, it makes sense basketball wise, but does it make sense in every other situation? So that's kind of like my next topic here, as does it make sense for the Lakers? So the Lakers right now are in a very interesting situation when it comes to roster building, because they have an aging superstar in LeBron James, who is about to reach 40 years old, and you really can't count on him for too many more seasons longer on the back end. And then you have Anthony Davis, who is right now in the middle of his prime, probably playing the best of his career, but he also is a player that has shown injury history in the past. So how do you really build around these two types of players? And the Lakers, they've kind of been starting this little bit of a youth movement. They were preaching it loud, especially when it was coming to JJ Redick's press conference last month, and they were talking about player development, and they wanting to keep younger guys and try to build and develop there. So you can kind of start to see where the Lakers are trying to branch out to, but also they have the players right now to be a possibly championship caliber team with a move or two here or there. So do you, if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, compromise that while bringing in Zach LaVine? Because if that were to happen, you definitely would change the structure and formation of your team. And will it make sense for you to do that? And the biggest drawback, I think, for Zach LaVine is that just oversized contract that he has. It is massive, and if the Lakers were to make that trade, they have to trade out all those players to match salary, because they're in the first apron, and then they also would have to suffer for that for the next couple of seasons, because Zach LaVine's contract, just take a look at this here for what Zach LaVine is earning the next couple of seasons. So next year he's earning about $43 million, and then at the year after that he's going to be getting 45, and then he has a player option for $48 million the next season. While he is 29 right now, but then those contracts are for 30, 31, and 32. So age-wise, it's not too worrisome, but like just that number-wise, because if you get to that final third year and that's $48 million, and then that's around the time where maybe LeBron is possibly retired, and then we'll see where they are with a guy like obviously Anthony Davis. He'll probably still be on the squad, but when it comes to building out the rest of your team, it does make it harder when you have this outsized a huge contract on there, and then you aren't able to really make any moves around the edges, because we saw that same issue with a team like the Phoenix Suns when they had 3 massive contracts, and then everybody else would have to essentially be a minimum contract or maybe a mid-level exception, and then it's very hard to really build a team that really works structure-wise, because you need at least 7 or 8 guys that can play at a high level in the playoffs for you to compete for a championship. And doing something like that, trading for a guy like Zach LaVine, really hinders that for you if you're the Los Angeles Lakers. It restricts the moves you can make, and it just makes a lot of things a lot harder. And you really have to hit on some of your veteran minimum guys, or even some of your draft picks, and hope that they play, or they hope they overperform before they have to hit their first contract. So there's a lot of logistical stuff that really makes it harder for me to see the Lakers trading for a guy like LaVine. Like I said, it makes sense basketball-wise, but when it comes to trading for him financially and what the Lakers are trying to do in the future, it doesn't make a total amount of sense for them to really make a deal like that. But Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below, because I'm interested. Do you guys want a guy like a Zach LaVine on the team if it does mean costing the Lakers' future and sort of like putting them in this build that they would have to win now? Or would you mind going after somebody else that maybe makes more sense, maybe money-wise? Maybe like a guy like Lauri Markkanen, because he makes similar-ish money to a guy like D'Angelo Russell, and then all you have to do is then attach other assets. But let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. I have been your host, Okechi Apakama, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.